So this video is just going to share with you a couple of little session ideas and some justification around it as well. It's just about how to improve decision making in the foundation phase especially, but this can be used with older players as well. For me, decision making is one of the most important parts of modern football. How good a player is at decision making is going to go a long way to where they're going to go in the game and how good they're going to be at football. It's as simple as that. It's a massive role that we have to help players develop as coaches. Now, that ability, they could have all the technical, physical ability in the world, but if they're not making the right decisions, we're probably not putting them on the path that we need to put them on. So the first thing I'll talk about when they're running sessions, and you're going to see the sessions below with a little bit of a graphic, a little bit of an animation, and I'll walk through those sessions. But the first thing I'll talk about is how many decisions are they making. So if you see below in the graphic, I've just set up little games of 2v2. So if I had 8 players turn up, if I had 16, I would just do this in more areas. But I always start little games off with kind of little 2v2s and stuff like that, because basically every player is involved in every decision. If you're not on the ball, you should be thinking about how you should support the ball. If you're on the ball, think about what you're going to do with it, and then look at the position of your support player and make the decisions from there. But you are constantly involved in every single decision all the time, on and off the ball. So I'm a big fan of working in small numbers, to be honest. So I'm a big fan of set a pitch up, a couple of 2v2s like this, let them play for a little while. They'll get loads of different skill sets into it as well. They've got to defend 1v1, they've got to defend outnumbered. They might get to dribble, they might get to pass, they'll get some finishing, they'll get some shooting in. So for me, think about how many decisions each player's making in a 2v2 compared to maybe an 8v8. Okay, that's something that's really vital. You'll see now that I will progress this up to a 4v4. So you've still got a lot of decision making going on. It's probably just got a little bit more complicated because there's more factors and more players involved. But I would still argue that normally most players are involved in making a decision whenever the ball's in play. So you can take the same games into this. That's really important. But they're still just now working with a few increased numbers. Again, go and watch a game of 8v8 and watch a game of 4v4. See how many decisions they're making. There was a lot of research done by Man United a fair few years ago now, because they kind of piloted and pioneered the 4v4 game. And it talks about decisions and touches. So that's the other thing to think about in smaller games, is they're getting a lot more touches, they're getting a lot more shots, they're getting a lot more passes, they're getting a lot more dribbles. So those things are really important, and that's why I like small games. Going on to a couple of practices now, the other thing about decisions are realism. Realism of decisions they're making is massively important. So in a 2v2 and 4v4, that's game realistic because it just looks like a game. We have to really think all the time, is this game realistic? I see a lot of coaches that go, they can do it in training, but they're not doing it at the weekend in games. Always think, does training look like the game? The game is chaotic, the game is messy, but also players aren't restricted in games. They're not, you can't do this or you must do this. So for me personally, when I'm setting up games, I try to encourage players to be able to make a decision, even if there is some kind of constraints. So this first game is basically saying however many passes you make is how many goals you're going to get. It's not saying every player has got to touch the ball. The reason I don't do that is that's not always the right decision. If you've got a striker in front of the goal with an open goal and a centre-back can play a penetrating pass to them straight away, that's what I want them to do. I don't want them to have to mess around with the ball and start passing around because everyone's got to touch it. Same as if you get a striker with an open goal, you wouldn't want them to turn around and play it back to your goalkeeper because the goalkeeper's not touched it. So my reasoning behind doing something similar is to say, right, how many passes you make is how many goals you get. So then if they get that opportunity to play that penetrating pass, score a quick goal and it's worth 2, brilliant, great decision. But if they want to try and build up play slowly and get 7, 8, 9, 10 passes, that's great. I've got no problem with that, because what happens then is there's a bit of psychological stuff of risk versus reward. You watch what players are like when they start getting to 7, 8, 9 passes. It all gets a bit riskier. There's a bit more danger, and then you're training the players' brains as well. So that's really important to start thinking about that psychological side, and then the social side of they start to make decisions as teams. Let's go for more goals. Let's go for quick goals, or let's build up play slowly, and let them have a go at it. So that's how I'd slightly flip that session. Coming on to this next session, this is one of my favourite games because we often restrict players to 2-touch or 3-touch and things like that. Again, in a game, you're restricting your dribblers. You're taking that opportunity out of it if it's the right time to dribble. You're affecting their decision making that you don't want to do at the weekend. But I see the justification behind it for some sessions and why coaches are doing it, no problem with it. But again, for me personally, I just like to give them a decision to make. So this one is the players have to play 1 touch or a minimum of 4 touches. So basically it means they can't play 2 touch or 3 touch. So what you get here is the decision for the player is when the ball comes to you, if you can play quickly, you can play quickly. That's great. But if you can't play quickly, you need to be comfortable on the ball, because the more touches you make, more likely you're going to start to be put under pressure in the game. So what happens is if defenders will start press as soon as you start taking your touches. And then players can't panic and just kick it. They've got to either shield the ball, they've got to dribble, they've got to relax. And you'll start to develop a good mindset in them to not panic and go, all right, I'll be comfortable on the ball. I'll take my 3 or 4 touches and then I'll play the pass. So that's how I'd shape this game. What surprises me whenever I do this game with younger players, more of them play 1 touch than take at least 4. So when we try and get people to play quickly by saying you can only play 2 touch, actually giving them a decision, play quick or play slow, and take your touches, normally means they actually speed up, which I always find quite interesting. Also, this doesn't limit your dribblers. Your dribblers get to take that skill set into the game. It doesn't limit your quick passers. So just have a go at it and try. So instead of going 2 touch, it's you've got to play 1 touch or a minimum of 4, which means they can have 20 touches if they want. That's absolutely fine. It also allows a quick 1 touch finish as well at the right times. For me, one of the last and most important parts of decision making is about who's actually making the decisions. So we need to let the players make the decisions. We don't want to be PlayStation coaches. We don't want to be saying pass, shoot, dribble, because we're affecting the decision making and making the decisions for them. So let players make decisions. Just have times where you're quiet as a coach. Let them play, let them figure it out. They will make mistakes. They will make loads and loads of mistakes, but that's going to help them improve. I don't mean just stay silent the whole time and let them repeatedly fail. Talk to them, question them, debrief, but just have periods of silence from the coaches where you let players constantly make decisions. Ultimately, by the time they get to 15, 16, 17, 18, the game is so quick. If you're shouting things from the side, they've already made their decision. They won't be able to react to what you're saying. So let them make decisions when they're young. Let them fail. Let them make mistakes. If they've tried something and it's not worked, praise their intention. Don't praise the outcome, because then they'll keep trying things and they'll keep making decisions themselves. It's great to discuss it with them. Ask them, why did you do that? And then sometimes they'll come with an answer and you go, do you know what? I didn't even see that. That's really clever. So let players make the decisions themselves, because that's how they're going to improve. When you try this with foundation players, it will take a little while. So they'll take a few minutes to get it, and you might need to be a bit command style on top of them as a coach and be very strict on the rules straight away. But after a few minutes, they will get it. I know I've said foundation phase players, this can be used with any players at any age group, these games. It's really beneficial, especially for getting the players to be comfortable under pressure with the ball. So have a go at it if you want to have a go at it. Let us know how you get on with it as well. Any other ideas you've got about how to improve decision making in players, please share in the chat or the comments.